A couple quarterback questions to get you started. First of all, what led to the decision for you guys to pursue Russell Wilson, and what do you expect for him to add to the team this year?
You know, when the free agency process began, we only had one quarterback on our roster, and so we were looking at every available person on the market or every potentially available person on the market, and so it was just part of our process. Obviously, when we got into it, and after he got permission to talk to other teams from Denver, the conversations were very fluid and natural. He did his appropriate research on us, and I think that's probably was one of the more impressive things about the process from my perspective. His level of preparedness in terms of knowing us and who we are and how he might potentially fit, just really put an ease over the process. Obviously, you know, we anticipated it kind of being a competitive market. I think he went to New York prior to coming to our place, and so was pleased that it was able to come together. But how it was initiated was just in a very routine way in terms of us acknowledging we only had one guy at the position and scouring everyone in the market. I think that's another component of the discussion as well. We did our due diligence and looked at all possibles in the market, and I think that's probably what led us to discussions and interactions with Chicago, and thus ending up with both guys.
Yeah, you pivoted from Kenny to Fields. If you could just maybe briefly discuss that, and also what you expect Fields to bring to your team.
Yeah, you know, in the days following our acquisition of Russell, Kenny expressed a desire for a change of scenery. As I had mentioned, we had been in pretty fluid communication with Chicago. After we got a sense of what direction that was going, then the dominoes started to fall, and we did the transactions necessary to kind of send Kenny to Philly and acquire Justin. We're excited about the guys that we have in Russell and Justin, man, and just really can't wait to get started.
Mike, in terms of Justin, what have you seen on film that kind of gave you the confidence that he still has more to give than he showed in Chicago?
Oh my gosh, man! He oozes talent and potential. He's worn the responsibility of being a franchise quarterback, but still he gets an opportunity to come into a community-like situation and learn from a guy that's been doing it for over a decade. Man, there's a lot of meat left on that bone, man. I'm just excited about working to be a part of extracting it.
Ideally, do you view that as a situation where you'd like to have Justin kind of sit, learn this whole year, or is he in that competition?
No, we're not resistant to competition, but as I've mentioned several times of late, I just think it's appropriate to establish positioning as we get into this thing. And the term that I've used is Russell has pole position. And why do I use that term? Because during this time where we're not formally working, man, I just think it's beneficial. His experience in the National Football League, his process that's been honed and perfected, talking about over a 12-month calendar, is not only good for him, it's good for teams. It's good for receivers, tight ends, running backs, etc. All the things that people that are really committed to winning do this time of year. Russell has those resources, man, that structure, and so that's why I say he has pole position, man. It just creates a synergy that I think is good for this time of year. When it's time to compete, we get in training camp-like settings and going to preseason stadiums and so forth. Obviously, Justin will be given an opportunity to show his capabilities.
Mike, when you went back and watched the film of Justin last year, did you feel like the Bears put him in the best position to succeed?
I'm not judging anything that was done in Chicago. That's not my business. I just look at the pedigree of the talent, the things that are not relative to coaching.
Mike, with that talent meshing with Arthur Smith would like to do, is that one reason too why these two quarterbacks would fit?
Absolutely. Their skill set fits into the vision of what we're trying to get done, and so I'm excited from that perspective, certainly.
Mike, we talk about this big brotherhood and bond for life. You have a former player in crisis, seemingly in crisis from cancer. Is there anything you do to reach out as
I certainly have, but I'll just leave that between us.
Thank you.
How do you assess the kickoff proposal, where it stands? What do you think that'll accomplish what you want and its chances of being passed?
As a member of the committee for several years, man, we have talked about the kickoff play. And for obvious reasons, man, it's central to our efforts to make the game safer. Obviously, this is, an unusual discussion in terms of the radical change But, man, the special teams coaches and the special teams coaches committee have put a lot of work into the proposal, man. I'm so appreciative of the work that they put in trying to meet the demands of the game as we try to advance the game and move the game forward. But where that's going to land and what's going to transpire today, I have no idea, man. It's a big day. We got a lot of discussions ahead of us.
Mike, you mentioned there's a lot of meat on the bone, you feel like, with Justin. What can you and Arthur and Russell do to help him reach his potential that maybe...
I haven't met him yet in a professional setting, so we'll handle all of those things in a very natural way. We're excited about having him.
Mike, on the kickoff proposal, how drastically could that change, everything from roster decisions to body types that you guys might need to all of a sudden with the kickoff return being a play again?
I think that that's probably a central component of what's going to be discussed today. The rules and what the play is just a component of the discussion. The unintended consequences, as you mentioned, is probably the meat of the discussion. Body types might change. How is it going to affect field positioning and thus scoring? Roster building, the importance of the return man if this thing goes through the way that it is. And so I think that, it's not the discussions that await us today aren't necessarily about the play or the rules of the play, but it's the ramifications, the seeing around corners, the unintended consequences of some of the things that you mentioned.
Mike, you talk about the signing of Patrick Queen and just what that does not only to the second level of your defense, but also how that might affect the first level and even the secondary as well.
Excited about having Pat. Pat's a unique guy in that he has both youth and experience. This guy's been in the league 4 years, hadn't missed a game, and he's 24 and a half years old. And so obviously we're extremely familiar with him and his skill set, talent level. Excited about it. He's an all situations guy. He's good versus the run. He's good in coverage. He's a good blitzer. We're just really excited about having a guy of his caliber that brings that unique combination of youth and experience.
Mike, you have a pretty good relationship with Cam Hayward. How tough was that last year, him dealing with injuries? Only maybe the second time of his career, to that degree.
Injuries are a component of what we do. You always hate it individually and collectively, but you acknowledge at times it's a component of the game. He dealt with it like the professional that he is, and as did Minka. We had several guys, significant guys, miss chunks of time due to injury. That's just football. It's not exclusive to us.
What defensive line do you have to add to it, in your opinion? I mean,
we're looking to add players at every position. To be honest with you, man, we're trying to be the very best team that we can be, and so we're going to utilize all the avenues to do that. Certainly, I don't know that there's been an offseason where I haven't been shopping at the defensive line.
Do you know yet if Cam's injury will limit him in the offseason workouts and getting ready for camp?
I'm not anticipating it to be a factor by the time we get to training camp. I haven't even asked about the offseason. Not overly concerned about it, to be honest with you, in terms of his availability.
Mike, his play aside, what were the attributes that convinced you Russell Wilson is a Pittsburgh Steeler? He fits.
Just his approach to business, how he lives his life, how he lives his professional life. I said yesterday, and it's probably the best way to describe it, Russell is not a guy that's hungry. Hunger is something that can be satisfied. He's a guy that's driven. He's on a quest to be the very best that he can be, to shape his career up to a vision that he has, and that resonated with me.
Mike, it's good. There were some things last year between you and the team. In general, what kind of player is he?
They're getting a very versatile, capable guy, a guy that started capable at both left and right tackle, and a guy that's accountable and professional.
In terms of Russell as a player, when you look at him the last couple of years in Denver, do you see him a different player than he was all those years in Seattle?
I probably don't have a really good frame of reference from Seattle because I just didn't see a lot of them being in the NFC group, but I don't have any concerns about his capabilities, if that's what you're asking, or deterioration of those.
His performance in Denver statistically and everything doesn't match up with what he was in Seattle. Have you talked to him about
Denver was a different environment than Seattle. I care less about what transpired, to be quite honest with you. I'm excited about what awaits us. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time looking in our rearview mirror. We're going to look through our windshield and keep it moving.
Mike, at that position, how do you balance wanting to, like you said earlier, have some level of competition with
a guy needing to get reps with the ones?
There's going to be opportunity for competition. As I outlined in great detail, I just think it's appropriate for this time of year to establish a pecking order for fluidity of the process of the collective.
Coach, what was attractive in hiring Arthur Smith as your offensive coordinator this year?
Man, I'm highly familiar with Arthur just from competing against him over the years in multiple locations. Man, I had a lot of respect for the work that he did in Atlanta and also the work that he did in Tennessee. And I think that's what created the comfort. I see his personality in his tape. And it's not something that he has to buy into in terms of being a Pittsburgh Steeler. That was one of the reasons why we pursued him, man. His football visions and things that he values are in line with ours.
You have a former player like Cam Sutton who runs into some issues off the field. Do you reach out to him, and if so, what do you say?
I do, but those conversations are between us.
Raheem going to Atlanta this year. I know he was your quality control guy in 02 coming in. What do you say about him getting a second chance and being?
Man, he is so deserving. I'm so happy for him, and I can't wait to see what he puts out. I know, knowing Raheem over the last 25 years or so and having an opportunity to work alongside him, I know his commitment to the game. I know his commitment to preparedness. I'm just excited about watching the product that those guys are going to put out there.
Hey, Mike, what did you think of Jordan Love? You guys caught them when they were still struggling early in the season.
I just thought he was a very talented and capable guy. Really first time being in the stadium with him. He's got an awesome skill set. His mobility is a component that maybe I underestimated. He's in a good situation. They're in a good situation with him.
Mike, what do you think about where your quarterback situation was after Big Ben to where it is now? Are you a little bit more excited? Do you have a little bit more drive and enthusiasm about it?
To be honest with you, I'm always excited. I'm excited. I can't wait to get started. But I probably felt the same way a year ago.
Mike, with all the changes in the quarterbacks and everything, does it make you appreciate having a guy or having had a guy like Ben, a franchise guy for a long time?
I didn't need those circumstances to appreciate a high level of consistency over a long period of time. I just been in it long enough to appreciate it while I had it.
Okay, Hunter question. What attracted you to Cam Johnson?
A lot of things, man. His body of work since he's been in the NFL, his ability to kick in less than ideal circumstances. We have a lot of information and tools at our disposal in today's advanced analytics world, and just about every situation or direction that we looked at it from, he was the belle of the ball in terms of the market, and we're glad to have him.
Mike, 2 years ago, when after Ben retired, you were really involved in quarterbacks in the first round. You ended up drafting Kenny. This time around, it seemed like you were more focused on older guys, and even though you're drafting about the same place. Why was that the focus this offseason?
I don't know that was an agenda. We just got two ways to improve our football team through free agency and the draft, and we open to utilizing either or both in an effort to get better in any area. And so I don't know that it was a sea change. We're just always really trying to attack free agency and the draft. Some situations we address in free agency, some we address in the draft. Obviously, the more that you're able to address in free agency, it lessens, narrow-mindedness in draft prep.
Did you visit Kirk Cousins at all during that free agency process?
We did.
With Sean Elliott, he definitely has the body type to play the strong safety position, but he's played all over the secondary. What do you envision for his role this season?
I think that's to be determined, but obviously I'm really excited that he's here. He's a really good tackler. He's a really good communicator. He has some of the natural traits that I think really makes you excited about adding to your defense from a safety perspective. And he's not a newbie by any stretch. He's been in the league. We're familiar with him. He's familiar with us, and I just think that, man, that makes me really excited.
What do you think stand now with slot corner, given you still could sign somebody and draft somebody for that?
You talking about in what way?
You're a slot corner right now. Who you have that you could use there if you had to?
We got some candidates, but obviously we're probably still looking. I think that's a position that we're all looking for and looking at annually because some of the demands that come at that position in the NFL are somewhat different than in college. in college, man, oftentimes that guy is a safety-like guy. The coverage is so significant in the NFL that most of the time that guy's a corner-like guy. So I think we're all kind of scouring that position annually and seeing what's available in terms of ready-made talent and so forth.
Like I know Patrick Peterson mentioned he might be open to come back. What would need to happen for you to get him back or ask him back?
We're open to it as well, but, there's so much business in front of us, and so we just, felt like it was appropriate to be transparent with him, to give him an opportunity to assess what's out there in totality, and if the two sides come back together, great.
Mike, I apologize if you were asked this, but Kenny Pickett has a new role in Philadelphia. I'm curious, as a locker room guy, like a leader, a teammate, what did you see from him in his 2 years?
I saw nothing but professional effort. He's a heck of a dude. They're getting a really good guy.
Well, it was a tough year for Minka with the injury, but also before then, he wasn't necessarily making the same kind of splash plays in terms of interceptions that he had in the past. Do you feel like something needs to change to get him into more positions to be able to make that impact?
I don't. To me, it's about availability. If he's available, he's going to be Mink.
You got your option on Najee coming up here. Is that a decision that's been made internally, and how do you evaluate Najee at this point?
It has not. But obviously, Naj has been a model of consistency since he's been with us. I think I saw a statistic about his 3,000-yard seasons being rare company, and I just think that illustrates how he's been for us.
QB as a veteran guy or a younger guy?
To be determined.
Yesterday about the 7-on-7 and the AAUification of football. How much of that is something that you've experienced in analyzing wide receivers now, and how much is it your own experience seeing your kids come up?
Both.
What was kind of the difference in what you learned being in it as a dad and seeing it as a talent evaluator?
For example, I think the first time I saw Sauce Gardner was at a, setting like you mentioned when he and my son, I think, were both like 16. And so you see it's not a mystery anymore. These kids are working on their skills over the course of a 12-month calendar. They're traveling during the spring and summer, getting an exposure to other talented kids. They're taking away the mystery component of their development. And I just think we're seeing more ready-made guys in the passing game, whether it's receivers, corners, or quarterbacks for that matter. I just think that it's been significant in terms of their development and readiness.
With your strength and conditioning staff, what went into that decision, and what do you like about Matus?
I just thought it was time. I just thought, we got so many talented young big people. I wanted to put, some fresh expertise into their growth and development. As an organization, we own the development of our young players. And so I'm just really excited. The acquisition of young talented players like Broderick or Keanu Benton is just a component of it. Their growth and development over the course of a 12-month calendar is equally as important as their talents. And so I'm excited about the moves that we made there and the fresh vision that we're going to have in terms of some of our player development.
Coach, just to follow up on Raheem, can you speak to his development as a motivational coach and being able to control the whole roster?
I cannot. I haven't worked with him since 2005, and so I'd be speculating.
And could you comment about his, he strategically moves to the offensive side of the ball, Dan moved him over there, and he's worked with Sean and Kyle along the way, how that might help him out as a head coach?
Certainly it's beneficial. I worked on both sides of the ball as a young guy, but I wasn't privy to decision-making or what transpired when he was making those moves. As I mentioned again, we hadn't worked together since 05.
Mikey, you talked yesterday about there's a lot of ways you can go to fill Deontay's shoes at receiver. Is there an ideal skill set that maybe complements George Pickens or does what you guys are looking for within your offense?
I think particularly at that position, playmaking comes in all different shapes and sizes. And when you come in with preconceived notions, all you do is limit yourself. Just look at the rosters around the NFL and look at the different dimensions of people that are dynamic at that position and the differing ways in which they do it. I'm open to all of that.
How confident are you in your two top cornerbacks with not only Joey Porter Jr. and what he did as a rookie, but then also bringing in Dante Jackson from Carolina?
Very confident.
Retiring, what do you remember about his impact on the game, and what was like game plan?
I think my memories about him are probably more personal than impact on the game. I've had the pleasure of knowing him since he was about 18 years old, and I just have witnessed his relationship that he has had with the game. I've seen him getting out of his car when it was still very dark in the morning and working solo over the course of a 12-month calendar. I remember when the Rams won the Super Bowl, man, it was probably less than a week later, man, I saw him getting out of his car in Pittsburgh, PA, with his sweats on and his bag, going to work. And I think that's just indicative of who he is as a football man and why he's had the type of career he's had and impact on the game he's had. You know, the secret is there's no secret, man. This guy has built that thing brick by brick, and I'm just so respectful of what he's done and how he's gone about it.
Thank you. Still expect to see him a lot on the south side?
I don't know. You know, I imagine that LA non-football life is pretty good.
Anyone?
I'll ask you one. How are you, Mike? Good to see you.
My college teammate, Joe Person. What's up, brother?
Have they asked you about Deontay Johnson? Is anyone from Charlotte stopped?
No, you got it.
Yeah. What are the Panthers getting with him? And I know he had some off the field stuff with you guys.
Man, you're getting an awesome route runner, man. A guy that can create separation at the top of routes. A guy that's tough to stay with. He can win in non-vertical route running and vertical route running. And so you're getting a guy with a complete skill set in that regard. And I just think he's going to be a big asset to him.
See, kind of like a lot of receivers kind of at happiest when he's getting the ball thrown.
Make no mistake, he wants the football, but I think they all do. I know I did when we were teammates.
Mike, yesterday when you were asked about that transaction, you said that you didn't request the trade. Was there an element of trying to shake up the locker room dynamic at all, or was it strictly player for player?
No, I just think during this time of year when you're roster building, you're communicating with people and you talk about things that you need and you hear things that other people need, and sometimes that's the driving factor in terms of what produces deals, and I think that was the case in that deal.
Brandon Ayuk said you guys look like twins. Has anyone ever told you look like Brandon Ayuk?
I've heard a lot of that recently, yes.
Yeah, have you heard no one's ever actually asked you personally?
No.
What type of receiver was Joe?
Joe was a tight end, man. Joe was a vertical tight end, man. He was
We'll go with one more. Anyone? All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.